Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a playbook for business growth that, well, it pretty much flips everything you think you know on its head. It's all about focusing on precision, not popularity. So, let me start with a question that kind of breaks all the rules we've been taught. A small B2B company in a really niche field like tax optimization did exactly this. Now, that seems totally impossible if you buy into the idea that success means going viral and having this huge, massive audience. But that belief, that's the exact trap we're here to talk about. And this brings us to the first big hazard that so many businesses run into. They're chasing the wrong numbers. It's like having an overflowing waiting room where nobody actually has an appointment. It feels busy, it looks impressive, but it's not getting anything done. This little gem of an insight actually popped up in a discussion on Reddit, and it just gets right to the heart of the whole thing. The success of that small YouTube channel we mentioned? It's proof that obsessing over subscribers is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually drives results, especially when just one new customer can be incredibly valuable. So, the most important thing you can do is shift your focus. Look, vanity metrics, views, likes, all that stuff, they make you feel good. They're easy to count, sure, but they're incredibly hard to turn into actual business. Action metrics, on the other hand, revenue, booked calls. That's what builds a real, sustainable business. One is about getting attention, the other is about capturing intent. Okay, so if the goal isn't a giant audience, then what is it? Well, it's about a complete strategic shift. You stop trying for broad appeal and start aiming for precise targeting. It's about attracting the handful of people who are ready to act right now, not the thousands who are just scrolling by. Let's use an analogy here to make this crystal clear. Stop trying to catch every single fish in the ocean with a giant, expensive net. It's just not going to work. Instead, figure out the exact fish you want and target it with a spear. It's way more efficient, it's less wasteful, and it's so much more effective. And look, this isn't just some nice theory. Remember that small B2B channel with only 1,500 subscribers? They booked over 500 sales calls. Why? Because every single piece of content they made was a spear, aimed directly at a viewer who was actively looking for the solution they were selling. This chart just illustrates the difference perfectly. Net fishing content is broad, it's entertaining, it chases trends because it's trying to attract spectators. Spear phishing content, on the other hand, is super specific. Think how-to guides or product comparison videos. It's designed to intercept buyers at the exact moment they're trying to make a decision. Now, to attract these high-intent customers with your spear, you've got to have the right bait. In marketing, they call this a lead magnet, and it's not some giant, overwhelming guide. It's a super focused tool that solves one specific problem right now. It should be the very first, most logical step someone would take right before they'd buy your main product. All right, let's move to the very tip of that spear. Once you've gotten a prospect's attention, how you communicate your value is absolutely critical for building the trust you need to actually make a sale. So take a look at these two claims. Which one sounds more credible to you? Research shows, again and again, that we find specific, detailed claims way more trustworthy. Vagueness just sounds like marketing fluff. Specificity feels like actual proof. And here's why it works. Specificity basically acts as a filter for skepticism. It gives people clear, verifiable information which lowers their perceived risk. That B2B YouTube channel we keep talking about, it worked so well because its boring videos were packed with specifics, building trust long before anyone even thought about clicking book a call. Okay, so you've attracted and converted the right customer. Awesome. But now the game completely changes. It's not about attraction anymore, it's about retention. And modern retention, especially for anything with a subscription, relies heavily on understanding a little bit of consumer psychology. The first principle you need to know is loss aversion. Behavioral economists have shown that we are literally hardwired to avoid losses. To put it simply, the fear of losing $10 feels way, way worse than the joy of finding $10. I mean, think about your own experience. When you go to cancel a service, the company never says, hey, you'll save $10. No, they frame it around everything you're about to lose. The convenience, the free shipping, the ad-free music. And that fear of losing what you already have makes you hesitate. Next up is something called the sunk cost fallacy. This is our totally irrational need to get our money's worth. It's what makes us stick with something just because we've already invested in it, even if it's not doing us any good anymore. This is exactly why you might keep paying for a gym membership you haven't used in months. Canceling feels like admitting you wasted all that money you already spent. That feeling of guilt over past payments is powerful enough to keep you subscribed to things you don't even use. And finally, we have what might be the most powerful force of them all: simple inertia. Psychologists call this the default bias, our basic human tendency to just stick with whatever option takes the least amount of effort. And let me tell you, subscription companies are absolute masters of the default. Auto renewal is always the default setting. Staying subscribed takes zero effort. Canceling, though, that's an active chore. You have to find the hidden button, go through a bunch of menus, maybe you even have to make a phone call. They're banking on our natural tendency to just do nothing. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, it all boils down to a really clear, two-sided playbook for how growth works today. Here it is, plain and simple. The modern growth playbook has two parts. First, you attract with surgical precision. You go spearfishing for a small, motivated audience using high-intent content and specific, trust-building claims. And second, you retain them by understanding a bit of human psychology, using principles like loss aversion and default settings to keep those valuable customers around. And all of this leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought. Knowing that these powerful psychological levers exist, from using specificity to build trust to using default bias to keep people from canceling, where do we draw the line? At what point does a smart business strategy cross over into unethical manipulation? That's definitely a question worth thinking about.